ไม่ติดเนาะ
ติดกัน
ติด
เป็น
โคจิโลจิโลจิมีภาษาที่ไม่รู้ทั้งนั้นเลยนะ
ทุกคนภูมิใจเลยนะ
ภาษาที่ไม่รู้ทั้งนั้นเลย
เรียนชั้นสูง
ระดับไหน
ไม่รู้เรื่องภูมิใจมากภูมิใจมาก
น่าสนใจจริงเนาะเราไม่ได้เจอเราไม่ได้เจอ
ทั้งหมดเลย
ทุกคนเหมือนกันอ่านของแกรู้เรื่องเก่ง
แกเอาสุกินมาไม่เนาะ
Okay, see what you can do with this. The government-run newspaper, Iran, quoting sources close to Iranian negotiators, said, without elaborating, that Tehran's proposals would be based on realistic approaches and acceptable logic. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Iran's charm. The charm offensive.
Why no offensive?
Well, because I didn't put it there. The government-run newspaper, Iran, quoting sources close to Iranian negotiators, said without elaborating that Tehran's proposals would be based on realistic approaches and acceptable logic. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms. Okay, go ahead.
The government-run newspaper Iran quoting sources close to Iranian negotiators said without elaborating that Tehran's proposals would be based on realistic approaches and acceptable logic. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms.
Right, exactly. Succumbing to Tehran's charms. Wow. Very elaborate. Oh, I shouldn't use elaborate, that without elaborating. There too. The government-run newspaper, Iran, quoting sources close to Iranian negotiators, said, without elaborating, that Tehran's proposals would be based on realistic approaches and acceptable logic. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms. Go ahead.
The government-run newspaper, Iran, quoting sources close to Iranian negotiators, said without elaborating that Tehran's proposal would be based on realistic approaches and acceptable logic. Friends, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western power against succumbing to Tehran's charms.
Right, Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms. Elaborating. Elaborating, without elaborating, elaborating that Tehran's proposals would be based on realistic approaches and acceptable logic. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing. It's almost S-E-C-O-M-I-N-G. Succumbing to Tehran's charms. Go ahead.
The government runs newspapers, Iran's growing sources.
Quoting
sources close to Iran's Iranian's negotiator says without elaborating.
Right.
Thus, Tehran's proposal must be based on realistic approach and acceptable logic. France meanwhile assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western power against succumbing to Tehran's charms.
Succumbing to Tehran's charms. The government-run newspaper, Iran, quoting sources close to the Iranian negotiators, said, without elaborating, that Tehran's proposals would be based on realistic approaches and acceptable logic. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms. Go ahead.
The government-run newspaper, Iran, quoting sources close to Iranian negotiators, said, without elaborating, that Tehran's proposals would be based on realistic approaches and acceptable logic. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms.
Right. Keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms. Against succumbing to Tehran's charms. Caution, elaborating, quoting, pressure. Okay, go ahead.
Government-run newspaper Iran quoting
sources close to Iranian negotiators said without elaborating that Tehran's proposals would be based on realistic approaches and acceptable logics. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister casting the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms.
Right. Very good. Put an H there. Kind of like coming. Coming. Based on realistic approaches and acceptable logic. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms. Elaborating. Government-run newspaper Iran quoting sources. Go ahead.
The government-run newspaper Iran quoting sources close to Iranian negotiators said without elaborating that Tehran's proposals would be based on realistic
Approaches
and acceptable logics. France, meanwhile, Israel that would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms.
Right, exactly. Succumbing to Tehran's charm. Based on realistic approaches
Realistic.
and acceptable logic. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms. Go ahead, Mr.
Government-run newspaper Iran quoting social code to Iranian negotiator said without elaboration
18.
anything that Tehran proposal would be based on realistic approach and acceptable logic. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister
Cautioned
the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charm.
Right. succumbing to Tehran's charms. The government-run newspaper, Iran, quoting sources close to Iranian negotiators, said without elaborating that Tehran's proposals would be based on realistic approaches and acceptable logic. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms. Okay, go ahead.
The government-run newspaper, Iran quoting sources close to Iranian negotiators said, without elaborating, that their proposal would be based on release approach and acceptable logic. Meanwhile, as such, Israel that it will keep pressure on them after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western power against succumbing to tax and charms.
Very good. Succumbing. Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms. The government-run newspaper Iran, quoting sources close to Iranian negotiators, said without elaborating that Tehran's proposals would be based on realistic approaches and acceptable logic. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms. Go ahead.
The government-run newspaper, Iran quoting sources close to Iranian negotiators, said, without elaborating, that Tehran's proposals would be based on realistic approaches and acceptable logic. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms.
Right. Very good. That's very good, reading it from so far back in the book. Succumbing to Tehran's charms, the government-run newspaper Iran, quoting sources close to Iranian negotiators.
The government-run newspaper Iran, quoting sources close to Iranian negotiators, said, without elaborating, that Tehran proposals would be based on realistic approaches and acceptable logics. France, meanwhile, assured Israel that it would keep pressure on Tehran after the Israeli Prime Minister cautions the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms.
Right. Cautioned the Western powers against succumbing to Tehran's charms. Very good. Okay. The government-run newspaper. The government-run newspaper. What does that mean? The government-run newspaper. What?
Newspaper belong to government.
Basically, whether it financially belonged to them or it did financially belong to them or not, they run the newspaper. What's in the newspaper, the government said is okay. In other words, we're calling the shots. We're running the program. So the government controls what's in the paper. It's not a case of a free press. It's a case of a government-controlled newspaper. Whatever is in the newspaper, the government said, that's okay. That's okay. Newspaper. And the name of it is, strangely enough, Iran. No surprise. Quoting. What does quoting mean? Quoting. 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 May I quote you? Yes, you may. Only on that point. Anything else I say, no quotes. Quoting. Quoting. To quote.
Refer to.
May I quote you? I will be leaving tomorrow on the plane to San Francisco at 10 o'clock. Sir, may I quote you? Yes, you may. The newspaper is saying exactly what was a quote, is to write down or report exactly what was said. Did he say he was leaving at 11 o'clock or 12? No. He said 10 o'clock. I quoted him in the newspaper. He said 10 o'clock. Don't quote me. How do you like teaching in Bangkok? Woo. Woo. Don't quote me, but woo. Woo. Very difficult. But don't quote me. Don't quote me. To quote, report exactly what was said. Not what you think was said or what you hoped was said or what you didn't want to hear. No. You quoted, you reported exactly what was said. Quoted. Sources. The newspaper has sources. What is a source in this case? Quoting sources. You have to have a beginning point of information. It has to start somewhere. The reporter can't be everywhere at once. So, he's quoting an individual in this case, I'm sure, or maybe more than one, source says. People who happen to be disposed in a way to telling the newspaper what's going on at a certain place. If I was a reporter in Bangkok and I needed to know what was going on at this temple, in case something happened, I would need a source. Someone in a position to tell me what is happening at the temple. So that if somebody said, oh, there's something going on at the temple, but we can't get an idea of exactly what it is, I'll call my source. He's right there. Oh yeah, I don't know what's going on. There's a boat out in the river and the abbot's leaving on it, and I don't know where it goes. A source, somebody to tell you what is happening at a certain situation. And in this case, the newspaper is stating what sources close, near the Iranian negotiators said. Quoting sources, people who happen to be not the Iranian negotiators specifically, they're not the negotiators, they're somebody close. It's the guy maybe driving the limousine. What did he say? I didn't hear anything. But I really did. A source. You don't say who the source is, you just say he's close to the negotiators. In this case, it's the driver of the van taking negotiators from the airport to the offices in Geneva. And they're talking about what they're going to do. So the newspaper guy, after everybody goes away, calls up the driver. Do you hear anything? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They're going to do this and they're going to do that. Thanks a lot.